Hello, and welcome to Dyslexia Devoted, the podcast dedicated to building awareness, understanding, and strategies to help those with dyslexia. I'm your host, Lisa Parnello, dyslexia therapist and founder of Parnello Education Services. Join me as we dive into today's episode of Dyslexia Devoted. Hello, and welcome to episode 127 of Dyslexia Devoted. This episode today is all about blending compassion and rigor. What do I mean by that? Sometimes some programs work with kids and it's all about kindness and compassion and go with the flow and go with the kids' energy. And sometimes there are other programs that are very rigid. You must do it exactly this way every time. And today's episode is all about finding a mixture of the two. Now, before we dive into that, I just had a really great training with a group of educators last week. And by last week, I really mean 2 days ago. But, it falls technically on a different week. And I absolutely love doing live trainings and getting to hear the feedback from the educators that I work with, or the parents, but in this case, educators. And I decided that the training went so well and I connected so well with the teachers that I really would love to do it again for the rest of you guys. So coming up this week, Saturday, February 8th at 9 a.m. Pacific, we are going to be doing a live class of teaching with syllable types. This is definitely my most powerful training that I have that is a quick and easy workshop that has major wins that can come out of it. And it is the one that each time I train educators about this one thing, which is using syllable types to explain phonics and spelling patterns, it is the one training that all the educators think it's not really going to be that big of a deal. And by the time they're done with it, they're blown away and they're so excited to have all of this information and all of these new strategies that they can use now that they better understand something that most of us were never taught in school. So if you would like to join me, it's at parnelloeducation.com/workshops, and you will be able to register right there on the page. And I really hope that you join me for this live event. And we are only going to have 25 people max because it is a Zoom call with just me. I do not have an executive assistant coming with me. And those are the most amount of people I can really handle on Zoom at one time. So I really hope you join me for this live Zoom call on February 8th. It is $57, which is the same thing as the pre-recorded version of this workshop because it is available on demand. But live trainings are always so much more meaningful, I find. So I hope you join me. If by some crazy chance you already own that workshop, you can attend the live one for free. So just send me an email. All right. So this week's episode is all about blending compassion and rigor. In recent weeks, I've taken on several new students because I've been able to find a few kids who I can help during the school day. So rather uniquely, I've taken on multiple kids in December and January, which typically that's not usually when I take on new kids, but that's when I had openings and they found me and we made it all work. And the thing that I've learned is any kid who starts working with you in the middle of the school year is really struggling. There's a reason somebody found you in December, and that's because September through November didn't really go so well. That means things just really aren't quite clicking. And while that is unfortunate, it also has its own effects emotionally, which means you need to have a whole lot of compassion for those kids you're walking into, or they're walking into your office, depending on which direction you're going. I do it both ways lately. There's a school I've been going into, and one or two come to the office. But it's really about finding a way to get them honed in on what we're doing, but also blending that with some compassion and some flexibility, because I have to remind myself that the kids who I've been working with for the last 5-6 months, they know my routine and I very rarely have to remind them how to behave or what we're doing or what comes next. But the new kids really need to have some understanding and some compassion, and they have to be able to see that you care. One thing I've seen happen is that educators think that that means they have to make it fun. And I'll be really honest, I don't actually do anything to make my instruction fun most of the time. I would say the best thing you're going to get is a Robert Munsch book at the end because, oh boy, do I love Robert Munsch. He has some funny books. And I use them as a reward at the very end of our session if things are going well and I can get the child to do what I need them to do to learn. But I don't do games. You will not see any games played in my office pretty much ever. So many people think that their job is to entertain kids because they have to be able to enjoy it and have fun. And, it's really boring to teach it this other way. And it's not boring to actually learn how to read. If you are really good at teaching a kid to read, you don't need games. You don't need those things because the empowerment kids feel when they can finally do it means the world. I got the best text message today from a mom because her kid read today. That kid I met in December that couldn't read anything read several words today, all on their own, when they've never been able to read on their own before. And I just get choked up even just telling you guys about this. It brings so much joy to me. And I do not do any fun or games at all during our sessions. I teach them sounds, I teach them letters, I teach them how to tap out the sounds, I teach them why they make certain sounds, and I give them a lot of compassion and grace for mistakes. I actually only have 2 rules, which are you have to try your best and have a good attitude. Those are really my only rules. I don't care if you mess up. You can make 1,000 mistakes as long as you are trying your best. That's all I care. And that alone gets kids really far when they realize nothing happens if you make a mistake in my office or in the little closet I've been teaching in lately. That's okay. Because when I go into school, if you've ever been an educator who goes from an outside perspective into somebody else's school, you're pretty much guaranteed to always teach in a closet. Hey, but this closet has a window and I get to see outside to nature. So, I'll take it. It's a win. It's cozy. It's quiet. It's all I need. And being able to see these kids succeed and be able to see them feel the confidence, and kids I've only worked with for a couple of weeks are already making progress that their parents are celebrating at home. That is all the magic you need. There are no, it's not that I'm opposed to games. I'm not anti-games. I think it's fun to play games, especially if you've got a big classroom full of a bunch of kids and all these things. I work one-on-one with kids, and I only see them once or twice a week for most of them. There's a couple I can see more often, but 90% of the time, they get 1, maybe 2 days with me. I don't have time to play games. These kids are years behind grade level, and I need them on grade level, like yesterday. So if I can find a way to give them as much kindness and compassion and happiness, but not through games, but through pride and through seeing their own successes and celebrating their wins. I have one kid that it cracks me up. He goes, "Why do you always say that?" And I go, "Why do I always say what?" "I have faith in you." "Why do you always tell me that you have faith in me and you believe in me?" Well, it's because I do. And I just think it's really funny that apparently I say it often enough that it is something that a kid can regurgitate back to me and point out when I'm doing it. And I think because that's my job, is to tell them I believe in them. Because sometimes when you don't believe in yourself, it really helps to hear that somebody else believes in you. I think that's a lot of where the kids' goals in my mind are, is to make them think that they finally can do it. Because if they've made it to my office, there have been a lot of years they really couldn't. There's been a lot of years they had to guess. And my goal is to teach them they don't have to guess anymore because they finally have the skills to do it themselves. And a lot of times those skills come before the confidence in those skills. Meaning, a lot of times kids will keep guessing even though they now have the strategies to sound out the words, because for so many years they didn't have those strategies. And so they don't have that confidence. They don't believe they can do it. And so my job is to give them that confidence by telling them I have that confidence in them until they can finally do it. And then I keep in structure. I have really high expectations for what I think they can do, both behaviorally and academically, but I blend it with so much kindness and love. And then I also throw in silly willy things in my office. This month it is fuzzy heart pillows. And my kids have learned I don't sit still well. There's a reason I teach children. So I've been doing woobles, which are these little crochet kits so I can learn how to crochet better. Like I can do like scarves and blankets and that kind of thing. But I had never learned to make like a 3-dimensional object. And so this past week, there was a snowstorm and I sat there by the fire crocheting little hearts and putting stuffing in them and making little heart pillows. And the compassion this week was one of the kids was exhausted after a full day of field trip and then coming to my office after a field trip day, which I've been on enough field trips. They're exhausting. So the compassion this week was when kids had a rough day, they could cuddle with the heart pillows. and they're really soft, fuzzy, fluffy pillows, and the kids should just cuddle them when they worked. And that's all I did. We still did the same work. In fact, I told the little girl that we were going to take it easy, but as long as she had her comfort pillow, she actually didn't really need me to change much at all. I don't think we did hardly anything less than we normally do. But just knowing that I was going to give her compassion and grace if I saw she needed it was all she actually needed. She was actually able to accomplish even more than she thought she could coming in my door, because she was tired. I validated that. And I did try to keep, the easier version of the sentences or a shorter story instead of a longer story and that kind of thing. But I didn't actually adjust my academic rigor very much at all. Just by giving her kindness and compassion, she was able to achieve exactly what my goals were for her before I knew she'd had a long, busy day. All I needed to do was tell her that that's okay. You can be you. Some days are hard, and we're okay with that. Here's what we're going to try to accomplish. We get done what we get done. If we don't finish something, nothing happens to us. We'll just pick up where we left off next week. So, I hope that this gives you a little reminder that we can do both. We can be compassionate and we can push kids to be really successful, because nothing feels better than success. Being able to feel like you can finally do it feels really good. And sometimes that's really what you need in order to keep going, is to have those little wins. All right, that's it for now. I really hope to see a few of you guys on Saturday. If you are listening to this someday in the future, because I'm not really giving you guys much notice, this class is also going to be available on demand in the online courses section of my website. But I always like to do live things because I get energy from talking to you guys when you can actually talk back to me, unlike this podcast. So to register for the live event, go to parnelloeducation.com/workshops. So have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. If you want to learn even more about dyslexia, check out parnelloeducation.com/courses. See you next time.